Okay, good evening and welcome to our city council meeting. If you join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Mr. Snyder, roll call, please.
Volk.
Here.
Hellier.
Here?
Bermel. Here. Walter.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Moving on to item 3, citizens' comments, the opportunity for anybody to address the council for up to 3 minutes. Typically, it's for items that are not on the agenda later on. Okay, seeing none. Well, additional agenda information, Mr. Miller?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Nothing tonight, okay. We'll now go to 5A, our Panaprog presentation. Mr. Paul Jacobus. Kick this off. Welcome, good evening.
Good
Great
evening,
to see you again.
Council,
Krista.
Mayor. As the Mayor said, my name is Paul Jacobus. I'm the president of Panaprog for the years 26 and 27, so I'm in my first year. Standing beside me is our marketing director, but also our first vice president, Krista Check. She's brought up some bag of goodies, and we'll be handing those out shortly. Excited about Panaprog this year. We have some of the members in our audience from our board. It's a pretty small team that actually brings Panaprog together, organizes it year-round, and leads it for the city. We involve a lot of volunteer groups, organizations, and businesses in what we do, and it's pretty cool to see it all come together. This July 4th through the 12th, it'll be going on. We have over 80-plus activities that will be taking place. Great food, live music, sporting contests, a lot of them ran by the city, plenty of kids events and things for adults alike. So we're pretty excited about everything there. We're very thankful for the sponsorship that we get from the community-based businesses that help us out. This year we have over 90-plus sponsors at various levels. Our support of the sponsors continues to grow, so we lose a few each year, but we gain a few back, and we're pretty excited about that. Food's very important during the festival. We're excited to say that we have 5 sponsoring restaurants that are local businesses year-round here in Lakeville, along with 34 other food vendors that primarily are going to be downtown. So plenty of food and fare helping us out down there. Real quickly, I kind of wanted to touch on the new events that'll be happening this year at Panaprog. We're always excited that there's new events. We're even more excited that the board doesn't have to put on those events. We accept new events based on organizations and or businesses that want to, I'll call it own, produce, and actually execute the events. That's why Panaprog continues to grow, because more organizations are getting involved with their activities. Running down in kind of an order through the week, the Applewood Orchard is going to do something on Sunday after the fly-in breakfast, so people can go out there. They'll have their maze open play, and they'll have cider making demonstrations. Sounds pretty exciting. The city, Park and Recs, is putting on our first ever Panaprog bocce ball tournament out at Spyglass Park. Reading in the Park, which is being supported by the Dakota County Heritage Library over at Arneson Park. We think that's going to be cool, so we're always trying to add different unique activities. The Pet Expo, which used to be the pet show, followed by the canine demonstration, has turned into a much bigger event. It is now a Pet Expo, which we have several different organizations coming in to make that a day of hanging out with your favorite pet. The youth tennis tournament is new this year. That'll be on Saturday, July 11th. The North girls tennis team is putting that on the North tennis courts. The non-denominational worship on Sunday, July 12th. That'll be down at the Arts Center on the South Lawn. We're looking forward to that. 1,500 people is anticipated attendance of that for the first time out. Punt, pass, and kick competition. I know those guys, at least were all in that back in the day. I got last place a lot of times every year. The girls' North Flag football team is putting that on at Lakeville North at Panther Stadium. So great way to get involved with another event. And last but not least, we will finish up Panaprog this year, and I believe it's going to become an annual tradition where our new town team, the Lakeville Lunatics, will play a baseball game to close out every Panaprog moving forward if all goes well. We hope to have, and I think we've locked in, that the newly crowned Miss Lakeville will be throwing out the first pitch at that event as well.
Very nice.
Yes.
all of these things, we're just excited because we as a board can't run every event. And the fact that the community through the organizations, the city with all the park and rec events, comes together and helps put this festival on, I believe is what makes it great. It's what separates Lakeville from every other festival that I've seen or been involved with, and it's definitely a difference maker. A couple updates on some events that were their first year was last year. The Boho Marketplace, we moved from downtown out to the ice arena. This year, we have over 90 vendors signed up into 106 spots. We expanded it to 3 days, Friday through Saturday. And to support that, we increased our shuttles from downtown by the Art Center out to the arena and back, and we'll be taking care of that. So we're more focused on great quality vendors. We wanted to make Lakeville a destination for this event to get people coming in from out of town to shop and then hopefully shuttle down to the downtown to see what's happening down there. I'll bring up Panaprog Tribute Night, which is alive at the lake, where we partnered with Park and Recs to kind of up the game on that night. It's Church of Cash this year, which is nationally known act that we'll be playing, and we're anticipating bigger crowds, so we started bus shuttle service for that event too from South Cities Church is partnering with us right down by the Holiday Inn. We'll be running 2 school buses back and forth to get people in and out and help with traffic and parking. We'll also be doing that on Tuesday night during the Family Fun Fest. And we're not sure if we quite need the buses this year, but we're going to run them so people can understand what we're trying to do. We definitely anticipate both events continuing to grow into 27, so this is a way for us to talk to people about that. Other event updates. The business showcase, which is once we move the craft piece out from downtown, we wanted to make sure we were taking care of businesses that wanted to have a booth and be able to talk about their businesses, which is now down in the curling lot or by Topper's Pizza post office. And we're excited. We have 20 different vendors that have wanted to come in there. I think if we would have had 30 spots, we could have sold out 30 spots in that. So that's great that we have businesses wanting to participate and interact with the community during that. Race Car Alley, I'm excited. We moved that onto Holyoke last year, and the Touch It truck will be happening right before that. We filled the street last year. We anticipate more trucks. We'll be able to fit them in there. And then the Race Car Alley group will start their engines and lead the crews out of downtown. And this year, what I believe is to be 25, 30 cars will be donning American flags sticking out of them as they zip down Holyoke to kind of kick off the cruise. So I think it'll be a nice sight to see. A couple more things. The Budweiser Clydesdales, I mentioned this when I was speaking a few weeks ago. They're bringing those in to celebrate the 150th birthday of Anheuser-Busch. Just so happens to be the 60th of Panaprog and the 250th of the United States. So it was a great get, as they say in the business, that they're there. They'll be setting up their hitch right in front of the Art Center, right bound by the Lions area. And we think that's going to be pretty cool when they set that up. Controlled chaos. So we're partnering with Fire and PD to make sure that everything is under control. And that leads us into the Grand Parade, which is now at a small 130 entries. So it's one of the biggest parades we've had in quite a while. There are still people to get in there. But as of today, the Boho, the availability for food truck spaces, sponsorships, the business showcase, and the parade are all sold out on the day that we're at here in June. So we think that's a testament to the quality of the festival that we're putting on and the excitement that people have. So marketing, this is where my assistant now will hand out our swag bag. The first thing I'll talk about is the new Panaprog app that is out there. So please, if you get a chance, go download the app. It's got great information. We believe that's the future. In your bag, you'll find our new festival magazine. That is how many pages, Krista? 52. 56 pages. There's a pocket schedule in there. The festival magazine gets sent out to 8,500 different residents. Every year we pick a different block of residents in Lakeville to make sure they understand what Panaprog is all about. We keep moving it around. Pocket schedules are dispersed throughout town. Our social media, we have 17,500 followers, but each week we are getting 25,000 people to go on and see our social media, what we're posting about. And that will grow exponentially the closer we get to Panaprog. The website, we have 6,000 unique visitors month to date going to our website to see what's going on, that will start to be 6,000 people a day right on the first, the 5 days that heads up into Panaprog. So as far as the festival goes, and people wanting to know what's going on, the hits on the sites and the social media are definitely there. And our only goal as a board was to put on one of the best, safest festivals in the state of Minnesota. So this is one of our last stops on the tour. Your responsibility now is to keep telling all the good people of Lakeville the great things that are happening at Panaprog. We appreciate that. And I'll end with an acknowledgement of the city support that this organization gets from the city. You know, and that would be obviously from the council and working with the folks at streets and parks and fire and police, all the different areas where we come together, and the logistics that happen with the exciting stuff like bathrooms and trash removal and barricades and street closure approvals. We appreciate your support in doing that. We try to get better and faster and quicker so we can be better communicators of the impact that some of these things will have on the community and the businesses downtown, and we see ourselves improving in that every year. So thank you for support and everything that you do for that, and with that, I'll be done unless there's any questions.
Council, question. Dan?
More a comment. I know this is, a year of work planning for each year's Panaprog, so thank you for all the work you do. I think the red shirts and red, white, and blue shirts now this year are very well earned by the members of the committee. And just a shout out on the app and the website. The marketing stuff is just superb. It's really got a great feel to it. And
I thank our director of marketing for that. We come up with crazy ideas, and Krista was able to make that come to life, and I think that's pretty
great.
cool. So it's definitely a team effort. Like I said, it's a small but fierce team that's behind me making the city look good, and that's what we do. So we'll continue to do it. All right?
Amazing.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
opportunity. We're off, and we have our last Team Panaprog meeting tonight, so we have sponsors, the event managers, other people that support us down at the John Hennon Pavilion. So we'll be out of your hair and off to that next.
Well, we are certainly looking forward to it. It's something that, when people ask, how do you get to keep a small town community feel when you have 80,000 people living here, and this Panaprog is certainly the reason why. So I want to thank you guys for all your hard work. Looking forward to a great thing. And I think Little Miss Lakeville snuck in. Nice to see you. How are you? Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll now move on to our Lakeville Arenas report, and our Arenas manager, Joe Bergquist, will give us the download.
Thank you for having me. It's been another successful year at Lakeville Arenas. As he said, I'm Joe Bergquist, the Lakeville Arenas manager. I always like to start out with, obviously, who we are for the audience who may watch this on video or be watching it live now. Is most people do not know that we are a joint powers agreement in a separate entity from the city and school district, but we're a joint powers agreement between them. And I think what the council probably is very proud of, as well as school district, is we've never used public funds to operate. All our operating costs are paid for by the revenue we take in. And as of the last several years, as we've expanded our revenues, we've been able to do a lot of improvements to the facilities as well without major investment outside of the big investments like the pavilion rink and the new ice plants and so forth that we can't afford. But I always like to start with that just for the benefit of the general public. So 2025 was another successful year. Hockey Day Lakeville again hit another high as far as participation and revenue, or however they track it. They assured me it was their biggest year yet. They don't always share their revenue with me. We had district, we haven't had any regional tournaments for a while, and last year we had our first regional tournament in youth hockey. We're picking up a state tournament this year in 2026. We had a state tournament and a regional, and we have another regional next year. So from youth hockey standpoint, and the district, we're getting some pretty important events our way. We had our first sanctioned figure skating competition, which was brand new. Tanya did an amazing job pulling that off, like she does with the rest of Lakeville Skating Academy. We also launched our inaugural camps last year for mites, which is kind of the start of our programming, internal programming. We hired a programming manager, and that is taking off. I'll touch on that a little bit later on what we've done. U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame was at the January 1st of 2025, which had the Gophers and the women's Bemidji team playing at Hasse Arena, and that was quite an event, and we were proud to host. The annual figure skating show takes place every year. Maggie Flaherty, two-time winner of the Walter Cup with the Minnesota Frost, was in town in 2025 with her trophy. Had a fun skate for all the kids, all the girls to come idolize her and hopefully put the skates on and play some hockey for us in the future, or figure skating. And then we had our annual holidays at Hasse, as well as a kickoff for the pavilion rink. So, again, record ice sales. We were up to 6635, and just to give you a reference, when I started 6 years ago, I believe our total high was 3,800 or 4,000, under 4,000 hours per year. So we are continuing to grow. Most of that is on other ice, new programs. LHA with the outdoor rink did purchase a bunch more hours, and we'll be purchasing even more this year because I believe they're growing by 5 teams just at the squirt level. So their might is continuing to grow, and they're actually getting to a point where they're talking about not having enough hours again. So it's kind of where we wanted to get to, and hopefully they'll come up with the money to enclose my outdoor rink. So adult hockey, we're up 132 hours. That has been expanding regularly at night with the group that runs that. But overall, we continue to grow. Our figure skating, again, Tanya does an amazing job with that. She hit another record year. We continually, since I've been here, are in the top 5 in the state, competing against Edina and Maple Grove, and I believe Egan are our 3 big competitors that we're always trying to fight for the top spot with. And our other programs are doing just as well. Arena programming, I mentioned, is our biggest. For instance, our Mite camp brought in $30,000 last year. We brought in $130,000 this year. So that was a huge jump, and that's the future's, as we expand more, we have a lot more growth in programming area. Update on the pavilion rink. As you know, our first year was a challenging year we learned that the sun got inside and made it difficult to make ice, and the wind was, folks weren't happy, so the novelty wore off in a hurry. But last year we were able to get the windscreens up. We didn't get them stretched, is why you see the light coming in. We'll stretch them out this year, but we got them up for the year, and a lot of good comments from LHA on how much more enjoyable it was out there, along with the warming houses were completed and heated, and next year we'll actually have the overhead heat. So that's coming along quite well. We just continue to work on it as we can, but as we grow, we don't work on it as fast as we want, but it continues to move in the right direction. Financial results for 2025, your reports were all included in your packet. We had another successful year. Actually, since I've started, we've doubled revenue now. Since 2018 was the high, and then 2019, I didn't include COVID year, because that would have put us at triple probably compared to that year, but we're about double in revenue, which is allowing us to make a lot of improvements to the facilities, add full-time staff, so we have quality staff there taking care of the buildings. But the most important thing I'd like to point out is, as we diversify, that provides all this extra revenue. And 72% of our ice sales our revenue used to come from ice sales, and now only 72%. So it used to be in the low 90s for ice sales, and I think that's one of our strategies, is to diversify, so we do have more revenues, and we're not 100% relying on just ice rentals, which we used to be in the past. And even this year, we took a big hit on electric, but we're able to absorb it because we are diversified and bringing in revenues in other areas. So looking ahead to 2026, we expect another big jump. We've been growing about 14 to 16% per year. We anticipate that again next year. We will hopefully be working on our pavilion rink, some of the other additions, the concession stand, the Zamboni shed. That'll be added on this summer, provided we have the time. We're expanding our programming, like I said, for next year. It's going to have, we're going to go into the tournament business. We're going to get into some more programming for the Lakeville youth, which I'll mention a little bit later, with our ice club memberships that we're kicking up. That is much more affordable for youth hockey players, rather than spending the thousands and thousands of dollars they do per year. We're trying to make something affordable for our local kids rather than them having to spend a lot of money on the for-profit groups that catch them throughout the summer and the off-season. Everybody feels obligated to partake in. This is my new ice club membership I wanted to just mention. So for $350 a year, our public ice, that gets you open skating all year, all our stick and puck sessions all year, and our figure skating practice ice all year. So you can go for any of them, or we have a family membership for $700. We also have a hockey development membership, $750 per year, going to be $1,500. We're launching all this fall. And just for reference, $750 a year, if they were to purchase all these separately from private groups, it'd be about $3,000 a year or more. So again, we're not only trying to generate revenue, but we're also at that stage where we're trying to give back to the youth and make things affordable as well for the Lakeville youth. And with that, that's kind of my end. Does anybody have any? I think I got through it a little faster than I normally do, and I didn't drag on about the budget that I like so much.
Joshua?
But
I just had a question about the expansion. It says 2.0. Is there a 3.0? What is the ultimate goal with the expansion, or the pavilion, I should say? And what other improvements are you looking to?
So once we get the winter improvements, like the windscreen stretch, the Zamboni shed out there, all the wind kind of blocked for the most part, then we want to launch our community side of it, which is summer events, which is quinceaneras and, you know, family graduations, family reunions, festivals, that sort of thing. We want to make it an all-inclusive to all Lakeville residents rather than just the hockey community and skating community. And I think that's the big benefit of moving forward of what the pavilion rink's going to be able to do for us is launch us, make it a valued product for everybody or asset for everybody rather than just hockey and so forth.
Is that a programmatic change, or are there improvements to the actual structure, electrical, lighting, those kind of things that go into getting into that summertime use?
Most of it will be, you know, patios, like some of it will be electrical lighting, like the concession stand we're building using containers so that someday we can move them out of the way easily and put the walls up. But there'll be two containers turned into a concession stand similar to Antlers. And then the other one will be a catering kitchen, just like a pavilion rink. And that's going to connect the two buildings with a space for people to go in and warm up and still go back out to the cold part. But that is some of the things that will be, is really being that, like that right there is really for the summer programming, that addition. And then there'll be other amenities like the patios. And actually Joe from Parks was gracious enough to let me remove one of the playgrounds he was replacing, and we're going to put a playground out front and that sort of thing. So,
Other questions? I'll just say, you know, I continue to hear stories about communities either losing privately held or publicly sheets of ice, and places are scrambling. So it feels great that we're having so much success. So thank you for all your work, and you can definitely see the trajectory of increase since you came several years ago.
All right.
So thanks, Joe.
thank you. Appreciate it. Testament to my staff.
Good. All right, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Miller, anything you wanted to highlight?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items tonight. Item 6C is approval of supplemental agreements for the 2050 Comprehensive Plan, System Plan updates. As you know, this is a very technical piece of work, and it does require the hiring of consultants, and so that is what you're asked to authorize tonight. Item 6L is a resolution appointing election judges for the upcoming August 11th, 2026 primary election, and we are thankful for everybody who has agreed or volunteered and to be on that. And then item 6P is an approval of a joint powers agreement with Dakota County for preliminary and final engineering and traffic signal construction for the County Road 50 and Interstate 35 interchange, and so just continued progress toward that.
Great. Council, any comments? Oh,
I hate to do this again, but I need to pull item L, so that I can abstain.
okey-doke. Council, any other items? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda, except for item.
I move that we pass the consent agenda except for item L.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes. We'll now take up item L. If someone would make a motion on accepting or appointing the judges for the primary election? Councilor Lee?
Move to approve a resolution appointing election judges for the August 11th, 2026 primary election.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, any further discussion?
I'm just pointing out that I need to abstain because I'm on the list.
Oh, isn't that so nice of you?
So, and they're paid, so I can't.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Lee,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Hellier,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Walter.
Abstain.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. We'll now move on to item 7A, EB First Edition CUP and right-of-way vacation, and I'll turn it over to, is it Will from Bader, or is it? Okay, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Will O'Keefe, as you mentioned, with EB Lakeville Development on behalf of Bader Development and our co-development partner, Elevage Development Group. I believe there's 2 agenda items tonight for our project. This first item is an update to the previously approved plan for EB First Edition. As we engaged in this project, the concept began to shift a little bit, and we refined the layout from 2 apartment buildings to a single 142-unit building, along with 24 townhomes. We believe this creates a more cohesive and efficient site plan as a whole. The request also includes CUP amendment and a small right-of-way vacation to better align with that layout. And we appreciate the work that we've done with city staff up to this point and request and respect your approval. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening.
Good
Ms.
evening,
Goodrow.
Mayor, members of the council. The property is located, for this application with EB Lakeville Development LLC, is located just north of 210th Street and west of Keokuk. The property is zoned RH2, multifamily residential district. And as Will mentioned, this project was originally approved under the Crown Apartments back in October 2024. Preliminary plat, as well as the conditional use permits that you see listed on the screen. Preliminary plat and conditional use permit is good for a year. They can then, an applicant can request an extension. That extension can be granted by our zoning administrator, which was done, which will get us the extension through this October. And so that's why we're able to continue to proceed with this application with these changes outside of that moratorium period. So as Will described, the initial approval is for 2 larger apartment buildings with 182 units. The new proposal is for 1 apartment building and then the 4 townhome buildings with 6 units. So we're going from 182 to 166 units total. The multifamily building will contain 2 levels of underground parking as well as surface parking, and then a pool amenity area was included. There was some right-of-way that was originally under the county. The right-of-way was under the county jurisdiction. It has been conveyed to the city earlier this year, and so now we are able to vacate that right-of-way. It is no longer needed. So that is the reason why that's coming to us now versus being vacated by the county. This is the landscaping plan. Not a lot of the overall site layouts change, just configuration of going from 1 apartment building to the townhomes. And then this is the building materials. It's a mixture of light and dark brick, stone, meeting all of the requirements, as well as hardy siding, which is the tougher, more durable siding, and lap siding on some of the non-visible areas. Planning Commission did hold their public hearing on June 4th and unanimously recommended approval. And I would stand for any questions.
Okay, council, any questions, comments? Councilmember Lee?
Just a quick question about access to the site. And is this access essentially exclusive for this residential neighborhood, or will there be through access to potential future sites after this?
No, to the west, no. There would not be an extension. The access here, you can see it a little bit better on this aerial. It extends through this service drive, but the access that's through the site is not intended to extend further west.
Thank you.
And will it connect to the Authentics project, or?
It connects to,
Not through the back of the neighborhood?
no,
That was my
no,
question.
it connects through the site that we're going to talk about in a second. And if you prefer to just roll right into that one, we can if it makes more sense. We just have to vote on each individual item. But then it's the service row that ties around Sweet Living
Got it.
facility.
Council, any other questions, comments? I appreciate the update about the moratorium. I think that was a question people had, just
Yep.
because it's
Certainly.
been on the books for a while, but that's just the
Yep.
exemption we wrote. So without that, council will take a motion. Councilmember Bermal.
I move to approve, one, an amendment to a conditional use permit, number 2409, to allow more than one principal residential building on one lot, and two, the vacation of public right-of-way for 207th Street, and three, adopt the findings of fact.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Hellier,
Aye.
Bermal,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Okay, very good. And then, Ms. Goodroad, are you going to talk about the vacation part, or sorry, the preliminary plat of the next one?
I certainly can. So this next item, while they're pulling up the plat, EB Lakeville Development has requested a preliminary plat to create some outlots that will then support the development that you just approved through the conditional use permit amendment. So again, same location. This property is Zone C3 General Commercial District. So here's the plat, and it creates three outlots. Outlot, let's go in order. Outlot A is this larger piece. The only developable area is really outside of this wetland area. Outlot B is what's being proposed by the applicant to create above ground or ground level stormwater. And then Outlot C will be deeded to the city. That's all in wetlands. And so what they're proposing is when the original project for Crown Apartments was proposed, that developer tried to purchase this property to provide for the stormwater. So think of it as other developments that have kind of that regional stormwater where it might be adjacent to versus on the same site. And they weren't able to work out a deal. And so it was proposed and approved with underground stormwater management, which is very, very deep because it's under 2 levels of underground parking and difficult to maintain. This particular applicant, EB Lakeville, was able to work out a purchase agreement for this outlot to create and provide the stormwater ponding that will be utilized by the apartment building and townhome project. So you can see the layout or the configuration of the pond. This is that wetland line. There is that property line. It's, the sheet doesn't have an exact match. And then it carries over and extends into this wetland, the buffer area, the grading, and then the adjacent apartment building. So you can see how these two tie together. The wetland itself, or the stormwater pond, is going, the very creation of that, the grading and so forth, is going to result in tree removal. They will have to, with the new ordinance, comply with that on this site because it's new, and it does require 32.7 inches of replacement, and they are providing 35 inches of replacement. And then here is the landscaping plan that's been approved by our forester. Definitely want plants that are going to be water-friendly within these slopes. And so while it is commercial, Zone C3, these sites are not very well developable for commercial. That's why they've been vacant for so long. So staff felt this was a reasonable solution for managing the stormwater for the apartment project, while still allowing a portion of Outlot A that's outside the wetland. It's about 1.8 acres that could still be developed for commercial. But again, it's still got its challenges. We'll have to take some creativity for that commercial development, but it is possible. And it also will have the same access as the apartment building. So that is in a nutshell why this preliminary plat is before you in creation of these outlots to support the project you just approved the amendment for. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a little weird.
Councilmember Lee?
And I think that's what I had to kind of think through when I was evaluating the packet, because when I typically think of a preliminary plat, I'm thinking of development of some sort. The development here is the stormwater pond that's supporting the project next to it.
You're absolutely correct.
And so the result of this action essentially supports the wetland with this stormwater pond, but is reducing the commercial developable land in the C3. However, knowing, and because we've had this conversation several times about how challenging this particular site is to develop anything. So I'm talking it through out loud to make sure that I understand, but also in support of where staff found themselves with this recommendation, because like you've said, this has been around for a while, and it was challenging when the first phase of the Authentics project came in, and we went round and round about how to zone this or support commercial, but so I support the move here, and it just took me a moment to kind of understand what we were doing at first.
Any other comments? Councilmember Burma?
Yeah, I had many of the same thoughts as I looked at this, but when you listen to the reasoning and you see what's going on here, it's just land that isn't really going to be developable for anything but this storm pond, and it's surrounded by the wetlands. I'm pleased to see that there's still some level of commercial development that's possible, but it is a tough, challenging piece of land.
Yep.
And so I'm supportive of it, simply because I just don't think there was ever going to be a commercial built on that once the stormwater had to get to the surface versus doing underground.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the preliminary plat of Authentics Lakeville Second Edition.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Walter,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Hellier,
Aye.
Burton.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Congratulations. We'll now move on to unfinished and new business. So we're going to take a quick 2-minute break before we have our legislative folks kind of jump in so that those who don't need to be here can head out. I do apologize to you guys. This is a new format for us for a work session. Traditionally, it's a little bit more informal. We can sit around a round table and we just haven't found a good solution for you. So sorry that we have to put you here, but we thank you for the three of you being here.
We'll still be informal, though.
Yeah.
thought they would at least be up here with me. I see how it is, guys.
How long do you want us here for? That's the question.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
5 minutes.
Got an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work in a long period of time.
Yeah, you
right.
did a lot
Got the
of work.
floor.
Well, we will be relatively short and sweet. Thank you, as always, for the invite. I apologize for being dressed a little more casually. I have to get across the street in time for training this evening with a different organization here in Lakeville. So, but nevertheless, appreciate the invitation to be here. I know I speak for all of us when I say it's an absolute honor and privilege to represent our district, our respective districts in the state legislature, specifically the city of Lakeville, which we all have the great pleasure to work with and on behalf of. So we're here to talk a little bit about the most recent legislative session that wrapped up in May, and then maybe even answer any questions if you have any. But I'll just start off by saying, in working with these two gentlemen now for a few years, one of the biggest priorities that we're always having conversations about throughout the course of an entire year, not just a session, and at all hours of the day, and oftentimes including you all and folks at the school district, is how do we continue to best serve the people of our district and the people of Lakeville, whether that be making sure that we're taking care of our public safety folks, that we are providing for a high quality and up-to-date infrastructure, making sure that we've got great schools and phenomenal educational opportunities, and that we're helping you all and our residents here in terms of property tax relief and helping folks be able to provide for their families and find the cost of living to be manageable, which I think everybody is struggling with. And sometimes the state doesn't always make it easy for our local units of government to do that, but we're here to help you as much as we possibly can. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Representative Kosnick.
Well, thank you so much for your service. I know it's July or middle of summer and an evening, beautiful evening, and you guys are working. We had a little flavor of that when we had a special session, and it wasn't fun to be cooped up in the Capitol during the middle of the summer. So, thank you for the work that you all do, and it's great to be invited. So, thank you for that, and to be in your work area. I know I appreciated when many of you came to the Capitol to visit and talk about some of the priorities. You know, and as Senator Duckworth had said, you know, we're working together in partnership, but really just to make sure that all levels of government work better. It's kind of an overarching goal that I have, that, you know, we just provide the basics better than what, in a lot of cases, than we are currently, especially as we talk about some of the fraud in government programs, you know, locally. I hope you're having that discussion too. As the chair of the Transportation Committee, there's a lot more responsibility that comes with that, but I welcome it, and it's been, you know, an honor to do that extra work, because I think we've seen some wonderful results across the state, but then also locally have had an ability to have a little extra impact with that. I also serve on the Capital Investment or the Bonding Committee, and a lot of that overlaps with a lot of transportation projects come through a capital investment, especially local projects. And so this year, I was asked to help negotiate. I guess I did last year too, but I really negotiated a lot more on the capital investment bill. And in addition, you know, one of the main projects that we have here in Lakeville is the County Road 50 and 5 and the I-35 interchange. Last year through the transportation bill, we were able to get $40 million on the I-35 portion of that overpass. And this year, we were able to secure $6 million, and then also helped get a grant previously in the interim of $7 million. So that project is pretty much fully funded. On your consent agenda was one of the joint powers agreements to continue to make that work. So I'm incredibly gratified to be able to have had a strong impact on getting that project done. More local, a little bit south of us, County Road 2 in Elko New Market. They have County Road 2 and I-35 with the growth that they're seeing, the growth that we've seen in our industrial park. That interchange there has become backed up, unsafe, and over capacity. So they received some construction money in the interim, but they needed some additional planning money and design money, and so we got that in the bonding bill this year, and so the corridor is, you know, we've got the pain of the construction up in Burnsville, but pretty soon that's going to be into Lakeville, but we're strengthening that corridor to manage the growth that we've seen. You know, we'll talk about housing in a second. But So we're responding to the needs of constituents and the needs of the area. So it's super exciting to have that on there. Earlier this year, this spring, through the previous bonding bill that we had a ribbon cutting or groundbreaking for the Recycling Zone Plus. That's a joint powers with Scott and Dakota County, just south of Lakeville South High School. That is a result of the work that we did in the bonding bill. And then a couple years back, I know we're getting close to the deadline, but we're also getting close to the ribbon cuttings on both the first center, the Public Safety Center. I remember one of my first terms, I got a call from somebody in the police department, and it was a welcome call, to come take a tour of the maintenance facility there, and that was the genesis of, somebody in the department having that idea, and the police chief at the time didn't think it was quite ready, but took the tour down there, and we'll be later in August doing the ribbon cutting on that, so that's super exciting. With the help of these two gentlemen, we were able to get $7 million to get that project rolling. The scope of the project had a little creep in it a little bit, but we got there, and so it's going to be great when that opens. And then also one of the rail storage facility in the industrial park. I'm excited to see that get started and meet the needs. I used to live in that neighborhood that is affected, and so I know a lot of the neighbors have been very, very patient. Generally patient, and we'll be working on getting that. That'll be exciting to get that started too. You guys do a little work with the school districts like we do. I was able to pass a law for that when they have special elections and consolidate the local polling places. If there's another county involved, in this case Scott County, they will, now it's more clear in law in my interpretation. It was kind of inferred in law already, but now it's a little bit more clear. There will have to have a polling location in Scott County because there's over 5,000 residents, registered voters in that part of the school district, and I think it's just better election integrity and to not disenfranchise and make it harder for those folks to vote. So I thought that was very important. Senator Duckworth carried that in the Senate for me, and we were able to get that added into that. More direct on the transportation, we passed the budget bill in the first year of the biennium, $10 billion transportation bills, a lot of money and a lot of different programs. We don't need to go into that, but it was fun to be at the table and working on that. This year, we fixed temporarily, and how would I put it? When there was one-party control, there was $10 billion in taxes added, and part of that was the increase in licensed auto tab fees that we've heard a lot from constituents across the state, and certainly in our district here in Lakeville and elsewhere. But we were able to try to repeal it back to the original, but we were able to settle and negotiate on a one-year, 2027 will revert back a one-year $254 million reduction cost savings to taxpayers with the auto tab fees. So that was super exciting to be able to get that done, but hopefully after the election with the Republican majority, if I'm still able to chair the committee, we'll continue to work to make that permanent reductions.
And you saved collector cars.
And collector cars, yes, for Panda Prague. Thank you, Mayor, for calling us on that. That one didn't even get a bill hearing after the number of phone calls that we got. So, and I did not put that on the agenda. That was my co-chair from the other side of the aisle. But a lot of other important stuff that we did. I'll save some of the fun for Representative Whitty, but of course I remain available to you as council members in the city anytime that you need something. And then the constituents that are watching, we try to keep up on our emails, taking a little break after session, but getting back into it, and we'll continue. We appreciate the comments that we hear and the concerns. That's how we address your needs. And so we're very pleased to have a very successful 2026 session.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate to work with Senator Duckworth and Representative Kosnick. We always call it Team Lakeville, and then working with the council and city staff. The many times you guys have come up to tell us what your priorities are or to help out on certain things is always a welcome. And we always try to deliver for the residents of Lakeville. I get the pleasure of being vice chair of public safety, and I also serve on taxes. First of all, when I talk about working together, one of the pieces that came forward and we heard loud and clear from you were some of the priorities on the housing bill. There were some things that took away local control, and that was a piece that we all kind of looked at. And as we are having these discussions, I really want to thank city staff for getting us the information, so we had numbers to talk about. And when we talked about it with our colleagues, not just on our side but also across the aisle, I think it made a lot of sense on why we were pushing back on some of these things. And I want to say thank you to you, Mayor. Towards the end, there was a disconnect in communication, and I asked if you take a phone call, and I think that really helped as we moved things along. And certain parts of the bill are going to be good. It wasn't as big as everyone would thought, but the local control piece is still a big part of this, and I think that's important because you guys do an excellent job on the temperature of the city, and we felt that was important and one of your priorities. From a public safety standpoint, Philando Castile dollars, we got up the full amount. That is mandatory training that does go into your city budget for your training throughout the year. There's also a bill for survivors of public safety that die of cancer for their family members, which I think is really good. And also, kudos to you guys as you're building this new fire station, looking at how firefighting, and Senator Duckworth can probably talk a lot more than I can, how important it is to have these different areas and putting that investment into it. And then the other area that we looked at were on the pension side. We're going to do a pension where we're helping our law enforcement and first responders with their time. It used to be, when you and I went through, it was a 3-year. Now it's down to automatic. But we're also looking at a work disability piece and having a work group. And I think that's very important because there's been agreements with the city where there's money put into it, but we're looking at what can we do for our first responders in the long haul. So those are some areas that we're excited about. From a tax standpoint, obviously there's a little pushback on some of any new taxes, and I think we're very happy to say that there are no new taxes going out to any new residents or any residents. But the one area that we really strengthened was on fraud. The Office of Inspector General now has teeth, and it is independent and will able to do the investigations and hold people accountable and have subpoena power, which I think most Minnesotans, because unfortunately, Minnesotans are very, very generous people, and they are willing to give their money, but when the money doesn't get to the people it's supposed to, and it's like you open up the bag of chips and where did all the chips go? I didn't get my full money worth. I think that is what Minnesota's been experiencing with the fraud. So the other piece that we passed that I think is really good, it's fraud isn't free, and 100% of the fraud money that you take, you have to pay back to the state, and it goes back to the citizens of Minnesota. So I think these pieces are going to help, and those are a few things that we did. But thank you guys for all that you do, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Council, any questions, comments? Councilmember Lee?
Well, first of all, thanks for your service. A tough legislative session, and one thing I know, I think I can speak for all of us, is that you're very accessible, and so being able to come up to the Capitol or have a conversation, it's always something, regardless of if we agree on the topic we're talking about, it's always been a great relationship city to state, so appreciate your willingness to do that. I think the only, there's a few things that are in the ether for the next session, whether that's the Starter Home Act, NDAs, there's transportation consolidation, things that didn't quite get to the finish line that I think are going to come back up next session. And I know we have our annual conversation, usually around December, that we put our priorities up, but particularly around the Starter Homes Act. I mean, it felt like that conversation went too far, too fast without city input. And so what can we do this coming session to not let it get that far and maybe have more of a voice at the table before we're trying to fight our way into it, you know?
Well, I appreciate that question, and I can give you a couple of suggestions because quite frankly, we could use all the help we can get. It's a very alarming position to be in when a piece of legislation kind of comes out of nowhere and is so far gone into the process without significant input from stakeholders, in your example, local city units of government. That has to happen on the front end much sooner. And so whatever organizations, associations that you all belong to, making sure that you're reining them in and they know truly where you stand as a city and what your thoughts are is important. Sometimes they just kind of do what they do, however well intended it may be, and it may not accurately reflect what you all would like to see or have them be saying. And then also, when bills get dropped, sometimes you don't know how serious to take them. If any housing bill is written and gets dropped, we should all take it 110% seriously. That's what we've learned from the last couple of sessions. Reach out, start the dialogue, and make sure that if we've got input, we've got concerns, constructive criticism, suggestions, that we get them out there and we get them out there as soon as possible, and that we work behind the scenes and in committee meetings to build the relationships necessary to make sure that if legislation passes, it's the best form it can be in and it's going to be successful. And, you know, I don't want anybody to think that any particular city has a certain reputation or a certain, preconceived notion regarding any law. The fact of the matter is, specifically when you look at the great city of Lakeville, I don't think there's any other place in the state of Minnesota that's done a better job of creating more housing units for the state of Minnesota. I'm sure there's a couple that would like to say they have, but I'm very biased. Lakeville has done a preponderance of that work, no question. And so I think continuing to learn from you all and from the staff here and what has been successful would probably be a better step for the state to do than for telling cities like Lakeville what they should and should not do. And I think that we're going to continue to advocate on your behalf and behalf of the residents of the city to make sure that's understood up at the Capitol, to say, hey, how can we do this collaboratively, working together, because we all want to achieve affordable housing, period. And oftentimes you can achieve affordable housing when the government takes one or two steps back. Sometimes when the government decides to take 3 or steps forward and get into that mix with regulations or what have you, the unintended effect or consequences, we drive prices up or we negatively impact inventory. I'll give you one example, rent control in St. Paul, right? And so that would be the one thing I would suggest. Let's start those conversations as soon as possible and let folks know where we stand and try to focus on solutions that will actually bring about the intended effect that we're all trying to work toward.
Yeah, I was going to say the data that we received, knowing that you had 700 single-family units ready to go, 700 multi-family, that's over 1,400. And the number of permits that you were going through, when I gave those numbers, they were eye-popping. And being a former member of the the Planning Commission and being the chair of it, I understood it. I understood our process, and I think that helped. But also having the mayor have that direct contact with the chair to explain some of that, where can we find that happy spot? And I think that was where the discussions, because I think actually the mayor actually brought better ideas back to them that they were considering. So I think having those conversations early, having your guys' input, and the great staff that you guys have behind you.
I got to sneak out. Sorry, guys. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
He's the actual realtor. I'm the former realtor. I think it's a great question, and it is a topic that is continually addressed at the Capitol. Maybe we'll have Representative Whitty or myself make sure that we're appointed to that committee next year. But leading up to it, I think I would be open to sitting down with you, and I know you got your open meeting laws or whatever, and so in some format that we can little informally go over what was proposed, what was troublesome, and some suggestions that we can bring forward. Everybody wants affordable housing, but I've been here long enough to also understand that people invest in their communities and their neighborhoods and their home, and then expecting a certain amount of quality of housing that sometimes isn't affordable under the certain intent of what they're trying to do. And we have to respect that and recognize that. And so I think there's a balance there that was missed originally. And, just to be fair to my friend and colleague from Grand Rapids, I don't need him telling Lakeville how to do their housing. And so I had a pretty straightforward conversation with him about that. But I think if we got together a little bit, we would be able to more proactively address the needs of housing and in Lakeville, and you know, and not to overlook the housing partners that we have in this community, the builders and developers, and that you know, obviously have an important role in this, and puts us sometimes we're kind of in the middle between helping represent your viewpoints, but also the developers, but to come together to a better understanding. I think that's some work that we should do other than just the December meeting. So I'm open to that sometime after PanaProg.
Appreciate it.
Good. Thank you. Council, other questions or comments?
Thank you for all your hard work. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, that you represent the citizens of Lakeville as well as you do. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll just say, and this is also true for Senator Duckworth, I am so grateful of the relationship that you have with the city. I think I've shared this in the past. I talked to a lot of other mayors who have very fraught relationships with their legislators, even of the same party, you know, even though we're nonpartisan, but obviously. And so I'm so grateful that we have this great open line of communication, and that you both have really taken our priorities and made them the state's priorities. When it comes to transportation and public safety, those are the top two things that we always talk about, and the fact that you guys were able to deliver for us is just so important. So I thank you for your work, and I will take you up on that. We will connect before December so that we can have conversations, you know, leading into 27, because I'm guessing the housing stuff will not go away. So
No.
I do appreciate that, and I also appreciate you guys coming here on a nice summer evening, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. We will turn it over to our Parks Director, Joe Maciarchin, to talk a little bit about the snowmobile map and a potential update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know since we had the PanaProg presentation today, the next logical thing to discuss is snowmobiling. So with that, here's a little bit of information about how we manage our snowmobile trails here in Lakeville. And we'll be talking a little bit about the map as well as our existing ordinance. But the City of Lakeville has a great partnership with Lakeville Snow Trackers, and we have now going on 23 years. It's a nonprofit group that we work with, and they maintain and groom all of our cross-country ski trails as well as all of our snowmobile trails. So if you use those trails at Riverfront Park, that's all because of the partnership that we have with Snow Trackers. The club, and we say 60 hours approximately a year that they do grooming those trails, but they do a lot of additional work in preparation for it, between putting up directional signage and helping with maps and all kinds of other different things. So really active group, and appreciate all of their efforts. They do also do quite a bit of ongoing education and training through their club. And the club leadership works very collaboratively with Parks and Recs, with our staff, making sure that trail alignments and other changes are identified seasonally, or annually, I should say. The club also works well with us for other events like Ritterfest. So if you've done some of the snowmobile rides or those types of things that we do during those events, that's all through the same organization. The city's ordinance, though, on snowmobile use within the city was originally adopted in the 90s. It was updated in 2010, but it updates or outlines, I should say, the permissible use of snowmobiles within the city limits, and that includes operation on streets and highways, general operation. It includes the age restrictions and licensing and all of those fun things. We don't talk much about that ordinance. I would say there was a period in Lakeville's history where snowmobiling caused more issues within the system, so something that came up a little bit more regularly. But with the management that we have now and the partnerships that we have, we see less issues. So something we probably talk a little bit less about, but it is something I at least want to highlight. This is the full ordinance, so it covers all of the fun details about the no snowmobile zones, covers the dates of use, so permissible from December 1st through March 31st. It covers the speed limits and how people access our trail system. It covers the permissible hours, so you cannot ride from 11 p.m. through 7 a.m., covers speed limits when you're off of trails and all of those things. So I won't go through this in too much detail. Again, we can always skip back to it if there are questions, but generally, the ordinance has been working well, I think, from our perspective. And the existing map was last adopted in 2023. Annually, again, there might be small tweaks to this based on development, but the trail routes do connect to other portions of the area, so into Farmington, Elko New Market, and there are some key spots that we always try to hit for the Snowmobile Club, one of them being, for example, the Holiday Station by Antlers Park. It's an important stop for them along the route, easy access. But generally, the way that the trail system is designed is to provide inlets or in-routes, both if you're going to trailer your sled in, or if you're going to use a city street to access one of those trail routes. There have been some changes recently, most notably would have been the elimination of the trail connection on 185th Street. That did create some challenges for the club, but I think people are starting to understand some of those changes. And for example, this year there were residents that were in that area that thought that they could still ride within certain areas, and the club very proactively reached out and met with people to clarify that. And that just goes back to reiterate the good partnership we have. As far as the existing or the proposed changes that we have, again, they're relatively minimal at this point. We're proposing a new trailer location at Antlers Park. Now that is a four-season restroom facility and we maintain those parking lots, Antler makes a lot of sense to add as an additional location. There are also some additional route changes that would happen due to development off of 215th Street. You can see those in dashed areas there. There's also a realignment in Antlers Park based off of the reconstruction of the park itself. And then in Ritter Farm Park, that's the other potential proposed change. But at this point, it's really just an opportunity to talk a little bit about the policies, the process, and see if there are any questions or comments from you. I think hit it all. Yep.
Council, questions, comments? Councilor Lee?
For the added trailer parking at Antlers, how many trailers, how much space is needed? And how much of that parking lot is needed? And is there a way to restrict it to one side of that parking lot versus allowing the whole thing?
Yeah, so it's a very valid question. Right now, we only maintain about a quarter of the lot at Antlers. So 3/4 of that lot is closed in winter. We don't plow it. And we have the ability and have cleared larger areas based on events. So we kind of scale accordingly. There was a sauna event, a private event that was held out there that required additional space. We cleared some additional space for that. So we have a lot of ability to adjust accordingly. I don't anticipate that Antlers would be necessarily an incredibly heavy location unless we lose over time some of these trail segments. If we lose some of the connectivity, it's maybe going to become more important. So.
And is it also then assumed that the lake is frozen, so that's also a connection between the two parks, right?
Correct, yep. You can see it kind of identified very loosely, but the lake is used in 3 different areas. Coming out of Casperson Park to Antlers, that would be 1 and 2, and then actually heading north through the backwaters going to 185th Street. They cross there, you can see where it says to Prior Lake. That would be the other connection through Lake Marion.
A follow-up to the parking lot question is the wear and tear of snowmobiles on concrete and trails. Are there restrictions on to what kind of tread can be used on that?
There are. Within the city limits, there are restrictions on the types of treads that can be used, and there's a section along Dodd Boulevard as we look at doing those improvements where we may need to overlay the snowmobile trail over one of the new pathways, in which case, then yes, restrictions will continue to be enforced. And this is, again, where I would say the club does a really good job of helping us make sure that that happens. So.
I imagine the preference is that they're in ditches and grass, covered with snow, as opposed to a trail, right?
So ditches work great for the grooming as long as we have the clearance that they need. They need essentially a 10 by 10 box to get the groomer through. So we need 10 foot of elevation and width. They prefer the ditch because of the way that it collects the snow. But the way that the ordinance is set is that's on identified trails we use primarily ditches. In areas where it's not identified, it is street access.
I don't have any other questions. I want to just say I'm continue to be grateful to the snow trackers and the partnership we have, because not every community has that, and it's a great thing. And I think if you haven't been to Ritterfest, there's my little plug. It's an awesome way to get kids out and trying all that kind of stuff out. So I would just say, if the club is comfortable with this map, then I'm comfortable with this map. We can move forward from there.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, council or committee updates. I'll just say the only one, we had regional council mayors last week, a couple different presentations, but the one that was interesting is the state demographer spoke. She said that we continue to kind of be, as a state, not having a ton of growth. She said there are plenty of cities that are having growth, but as a state in general, we're not growing. They do have data by county that they will share with us on where people are coming from, if they're from in-state or other parts of the state, and how they're ending up in Dakota County. I'm very curious, just personally, about where's everybody coming from? If you had almost 10,000 people over 7 years, they're going to be coming from somewhere. So I'll be curious to get the report from her on that. And I did ask her take on if we lose a congressional seat, and she said it all depends on how well we count. So this is how we were, in the last census, and I'm guessing that'll be up again this year too.
So if we're bucking the trend and growing, and as a state we're declining, where's the decline? I mean, are there hot spots currently in that report? There's out-migration to Wisconsin, and then the Sun Belt of states. I don't know how you define that, but there's people just moving to the southern part of the country for weather and tax purposes and opportunity. If you see kind of where the growth is, if you think about North Carolina and this kind of like loop, that's where they kind of said where the growth is kind of happening. But she said just as a country as well, we don't have the birth rate replacement, because we're averaging 1.7 kids, which is a household of like 2.6, which you need to be into the 2 on average to do it. And she just said there's no policies that exist, even really good childcare, that will turn that tide. And so it was interesting to see kind of where we would go and long term. But it's the trend that we all know, and that is greater Minnesota shrinking and people are moving to the metro for sure. And she said the other big growth area, and I'm guessing it's really driven by land costs. Wright County has had tremendous growth along with us. So the two big kind of growth areas were cities in Wright County and cities in Dakota County.
Both ends of the metro.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, and with that, I will take a motion to, our next meeting is in July. I don't know the day off the top of my head.
And just a reminder, we do have our annual appreciation event for our advisory commissions on Wednesday at Antlers Park, or not Antlers, at Grand Prairie Park in association with Lakeville Lunatics game. And if it rains, we'll cancel the event, we'll send notice out, and we will get a rain check for everybody to attend a future game.
Okay. Actually, I do have an announcement. On Sunday, July 5th, at Casperson, there is a Lakeville Community Band concert, Patriotic Evening, and that's the night that we'll dedicate. The band shell is the Doug and Deb Anderson Amphitheater, so we'll have that at the beginning of the band concert. So if you're able to join us, that'll be on July 5th. And then we'll have a meeting on July 6th here at City Hall. With that, now I'll take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.